Men are being lied to every single day. You're told to open up, always say yes, always be available, and constantly seek her approval. What did that get you? A crushed heart, unread texts, sleepless nights wondering where it all went wrong. You gave her your all, and she walked away without looking back. You were meant to lead her. Stoicism teaches us to master our emotions, focus on what we can control, and live by principles, not reactions. And right now, it's time for you to master yourself, and in doing so, become the man she cannot control, cannot replace, and cannot stop thinking about. That's exactly why I created the Stoic Relationship Blueprint ebook for men. A deep, practical guide based on these exact principles, giving you everything you were never taught about how to lead, how to hold frame, and how to be unshakable in love and in life. And for the first time, it's now available to the public, but not for long, because this kind of knowledge, it's not meant to be everywhere. It's meant for men who are ready to act. We're talking about real dominance, earned, not faked. The kind that radiates through silence, through action, through presence. The kind that makes her submit without a word, because she can feel that you're him. And this isn't just about women. These rules, they'll shape how you walk into a room, how you handle disrespect, how you build your career, your confidence, your entire identity as a man. You'll stop chasing validation and start commanding it, but only if you pay attention until the last second. Number 1, set clear boundaries. A man without boundaries is like a fortress without walls. Every intruder enters, every demand takes root, every whisper of manipulation finds a seat at your table, and eventually you don't recognize the man you see in the mirror, because bit by bit you've surrendered who you are to avoid rejection, to feel loved, to be accepted by someone who doesn't even know the real you. Boundaries are not barriers to connection. They are the only way to have real connection. Without them, you're not being loved, you're being tolerated. Without them, you're not respected, you're being used. Every time you say yes to something you hate, to plans that exhaust you, to people who drain you, to expectations that don't align with your purpose, you are betraying the very soul within you, and each time you teach others that your value is negotiable. You allow her to text when she wants, disappear when she pleases, dictate the terms, and test your limits, until one day you wake up and wonder how your life started revolving around hers. But when you draw the line, not in anger, but with calm finality, you flip the script. Suddenly, she leans in, she listens, she respects you because you respect you. A man who honors his space commands space. A man who says no without flinching sends a message. I choose who enters, and if you don't respect that, you don't belong. Real strength is not aggression, it's restraint. It's in saying enough and meaning it. And if she walks away when you stand firm, let her. She was never yours. Boundaries don't repel love. They reveal who's capable of loving you rightly. And the man who stands on principle will never stand alone, because his foundation cannot be shaken. Number 2, lead without apology. The moment you hesitate to lead, you surrender your position in her heart. Not because she wants a tyrant, but because she needs to feel safe. And safety doesn't come from softness, from indecision, from whatever you want or I don't know. It comes from clarity. It comes from a man who says, we're going here, and means it. From a man who makes a decision, even if it's not perfect, because he understands that leadership is not about being right all the time. It's about being responsible all the time. She's looking for a man who owns his decisions and doesn't fold when questioned. A man who knows where he's going with or without her approval, because he has a direction deeper than romance. And when you hand her the wheel, when you constantly defer, when you avoid confrontation to keep her happy, You force her to carry a weight she doesn't want, and it exhausts her. She wants to lean on you, not become you. And when you lead, truly lead, when you decide where to eat, how to grow, when to rest, and when to walk away, you stop being a placeholder, and you become a presence that brings peace, not pressure, a presence that grounds, not confuses. She may resist at first, but deep down, she will breathe easier, because she will finally feel what it's like to exhale in the arms of a man who doesn't ask how to be one. Stop apologizing for having a vision. Stop explaining your logic. Start leading with calm certainty. And if someone doesn't like it, let them go. Because leadership isn't about permission, it's about principle. The man who knows where he's going never begs anyone to follow. Number 3, say no. Often. Your power begins the moment you learn to say no, and mean it. Every yes you say to keep the peace becomes a war within yourself. You bend once, thinking it's love. You bend again, thinking it's kindness. You wake up years later, bent beyond recognition, resenting her for the compromises you volunteered to make. And the worst part, she doesn't respect you for it. She resents you too, because she never wanted a man who would give her everything. She wanted a man who valued himself enough to say, "This is where I draw the line." And if that means losing her, then that is the cost of keeping your soul intact. The man who cannot say no is a man who doesn't know what he stands for. He's lost. And women can feel that. They won't always say it, but they feel it in your energy, in your hesitation, in your eagerness to please, in your inability to assert your needs. But when you say no, not with arrogance but with clarity, you remind her that you are not a man to be molded. You are a man to be met. And if she can't meet you there, she's free to go. You don't explain. You don't soften. You don't negotiate your dignity for approval. Because a man who says no from conviction is a man who's already free. And that freedom, it's the most attractive thing you'll ever wear. Number 4, own your time. There is nothing more expensive than your time. Yet most men spend it like loose change, giving it away to anyone who asks, losing years to women who never respected it, jobs that never valued it, and habits that slowly poisoned it. Your calendar is a mirror of your future. What you schedule, you become. And when you begin letting a woman dictate your schedule, you slowly erase your identity. You skip the gym because she had a bad day. You cancel your meetings because she wanted to talk. You abandon your dreams just to avoid her disappointment. You think this is love. It's not. It's self-betrayal. And she can feel it. She senses when a man has nothing going on but her. And it repels her, because she wants to be part of a life, not the whole life. The man who owns his time owns his life. He says, "I have plans," and doesn't explain. He says, "I'm unavailable," and means it. He honors his mornings, his workouts, his grind, his peace. And suddenly, she starts chasing time with him, because time with him is rare, it's valuable, it's earned. And when a woman senses that your time is gold, she treats it like treasure. But when you're always available, you become predictable, boring, taken for granted. So protect your hours like your heartbeat. Wake early, move your body, build your vision. And if she fits into it, wonderful. If not, you keep building. Because a man who guards his time guards his greatness. And the man who guards his greatness is a man no woman wants to lose. Number 5, be emotionally unavailable. The man who reacts to every shift in her tone, who panics when she pulls back, who chases her moods and tries to soothe storms that aren't his to calm, becomes a sponge for her unpredictability and slowly drowns in her confusion. You were never meant to be her emotional dumping ground. You were meant to be her anchor. But you can't anchor anything if you're moved by every wave. The man who is emotionally unavailable not because he's broken, but because he's grounded, is the man she runs to when her world feels out of control. He's not distant, but he doesn't flinch. He doesn't argue to win. He doesn't beg to be understood. He is still. And in that stillness, he becomes something rare. He becomes safe. Not the kind of safety that panders and pleads, but the kind that creates order in the chaos, not through words, but through how little he needs to explain. When she cries, he hears, but he does not crumble. When she pushes, he holds his ground. When she threatens to leave, he doesn't react. Because he knows something she hasn't realized yet. Real connection is not built by sharing every emotion, but by holding space without becoming consumed by it. That man, he's magnetic, because she senses that his peace is not for sale. And that is the one thing she didn't know she was chasing. Be emotionally unavailable, not to harm, but to protect. Not to avoid, but to lead. Because a man who lives from principle doesn't need to prove his heart. He shows it by never letting go of himself in the name of love. Number 6, speak with authority. When you speak, do your words carry weight? Or do they float away, forgotten in a sea of softness and uncertainty? A man's authority is not in how loud he speaks, but in how confidently he owns every sentence. When you ask, "What do you want to do?" you give away the reins. When you say, "Whatever you prefer," you become an option, not a force. But the man who speaks with intent, who doesn't need to convince, who doesn't fill every gap with nervous chatter, becomes unforgettable. Because power speaks in clarity, and clarity is magnetic. Women don't want to be in charge of everything. They don't want to solve, plan, decide every time. What they want, even if they won't admit it, is a man who walks into a space and brings structure with him. And your voice? That's the structure. Your tone tells her whether she's safe or uncertain. Your pacing tells her whether you're grounded or lost. Your words tell her whether you live by conviction or by compliance. So speak like your voice is tied to your values. Not to get approval, but because you already have it from yourself. Speak like you're not afraid to offend. Not to attack, but because truth doesn't apologize. And when you stop explaining your worth and start expressing it, she listens. The world listens. Because a man who speaks with authority changes the emotional temperature of every room he enters. And that kind of man? He doesn't chase. He draws others to him without raising his voice. Number 7, demand respect. Respect is not something you ask for. It's something you embody. It's not granted when you beg. It's earned when you refuse to shrink. The man who tolerates disrespect once teaches her that it's acceptable. The man who ignores the subtle digs, the passive-aggressive jabs, the constant interruptions, thinking she didn't mean it, slowly dissolves into a version of himself he barely recognizes. And one day he realizes he is no longer leading the relationship, he is surviving it. But the man who demands respect does not need to raise his voice. He doesn't threaten, he doesn't plead. He simply removes his presence the moment it is no longer honored. And when she sees that, when she feels the withdrawal of a man who will not stay where he isn't seen, her tone changes, her attitude shifts. Because she realizes something most men never teach her, that your love is a privilege, not a guarantee. She can test, she can push, she can rage. But if your standard is clear and your actions match it, she will either rise or she will run. And if she runs, let her. Because a man who truly respects himself would rather be alone than with someone who drains him. He would rather walk alone in his truth than sit beside someone who feeds him lies. You want respect? Start by enforcing it in how you live, what you accept, and how quickly you walk away when it's missing. Because when you demand respect with your standards, not your words, you'll find that the world treats you differently, and every room you enter will start to adjust to you, not the other way around. Number 8. Control the frame. He who controls the frame controls the reality. And most men don't even know they've given it away. They enter conversations reacting instead of leading. They try to win arguments instead of shaping the energy. And they let emotions run wild while forgetting they have the power to shift the dynamic without saying much at all. When a man holds the frame, he isn't just reacting, he's defining. He doesn't rise and fall based on her mood. He anchors the moment. She raises her voice, he slows down. She tests, he smiles without reacting. She accuses, he doesn't justify. He's not cold, he's clear. Because he knows that the minute he gives his emotional control to someone else, he's lost himself. And a man who's lost control of himself cannot lead, cannot be trusted, and will never be desired the way a grounded man is. So you control the frame not with dominance, but with depth, not by overpowering, but by refusing to be pulled. And that discipline, that unshakable calm, it speaks louder than any words ever could. It sets a tone, creates space, and makes her want to follow. She may test harder, push further, but the moment she sees that she cannot shake you, that you stand like a mountain while she shifts like weather, she will find comfort in your steadiness. This isn't about games. It's about being rooted in your values so deeply that nothing she says or does can knock you off center. Because once you hold the frame, everything else falls into place. The energy aligns. The conversation flows in your direction. The relationship moves at your pace. And her respect deepens not because you demanded it, but because you earned it without ever needing to raise your voice. Number 9. Prioritize your mission. The minute a man places his mission second to a relationship, he begins to decay from the inside out. He may smile on the outside, nod in agreement, show up when asked, but inside, a piece of him dies every time he puts his dream on pause, just to avoid conflict, just to gain temporary affection, just to feel accepted. But affection gained at the cost of your purpose is poison. It feels good in the moment, but it's eating away at your core. Because you were not made to orbit her life. You were made to build yours. And a man with no mission becomes a man who clings, who seeks validation, who fears being alone, because he has nothing anchoring him. But a man with a mission, he becomes magnetic. Because he doesn't chase, he creates. He doesn't wait for her to approve, he moves. And that movement creates gravity. It's what draws people in. It's what commands respect. She doesn't want to be your purpose. She wants to witness it, to walk beside it, to know that she is part of something greater than dates and texts and empty promises. So write the book, build the body, launch the business, study late, wake early. Fall in love with the grind, not for money, not for status, but because it's the path to becoming the man you respect. And when she sees that, when she knows that your time is spoken for, that your days are filled with meaning, that your eyes are focused on something eternal, she'll move mountains to be near you, not because you begged, but because you became too powerful to ignore. Number 10. Walk away power. Nothing shakes her more than a man who walks away not out of anger, not out of manipulation, but out of principle, because he knows what he's worth, because he refuses to stay where he's not respected, not chosen, not honored. And yet, most men stay. They stay when they're insulted. They stay when they're neglected. They stay when their needs are ignored, because they're afraid. Afraid of starting over. Afraid of being alone. Afraid they'll never find better. But what's worse than being alone is being half a man in a relationship that drains your soul. And when you walk away, not in rage, but in resolve, you become something rare. You show her and the world that your self-respect is not up for debate, that your love is a gift, not a guarantee, that you are not a placeholder, you are the destination. Walk away power is not about threatening. It's about being so clear on your worth that leaving is not a loss. It's a return to alignment. And when you leave with peace in your eyes and purpose in your step, she feels it, she sees it. And often that's the moment she realizes what she had. But by then, you're already moving forward, already focused on your growth, already becoming more. Because the man who walks away from the wrong thing is the man who makes space for the right one. And that's how you win, not by forcing someone to stay, but by being the kind of man no one wants to lose. Number 11, minimal validation. The more you validate her without reason, the more she questions your value. Compliments given too often lose their meaning. Constant reassurance creates dependence, not respect. A man who validates himself does not need to constantly remind a woman of her beauty, because his presence already does. When you validate too much, you become predictable. She knows what you'll say, when you'll say it, and that you'll always be there to lift her up. But attraction isn't built through predictability, it's built through polarity. And the man who gives space, who withholds just enough, who lets her wonder, he becomes irresistible. Not because he plays games, but because he honors his energy. He gives when it's real, he speaks when it matters. And that scarcity, that discipline, it makes every word from him echo louder. If everything is validation, then nothing is. But when you learn to hold back, to give praise only when it's earned, to watch and observe before you speak, you gain power. Not over her, but over yourself. And in that restraint, you are no longer just another man. You're the man she can't quite figure out, the one she's always thinking about. Because validation, when rare and genuine, becomes a reward, not a routine. She earns it, she craves it, she values it. And that shift, from you proving your worth to her proving hers, is the moment she sees you not as an option, but as the prize. Number 12. Assert over please. Every time you seek to please over asserting what you need, you tell the world you have no standard. And without standards, you have no direction. The man who lives to please is the man who disappears into the background of his own life. He says yes when he wants to say no. He apologizes for truths that needed to be spoken. He bends, breaks, and reshapes himself just to avoid a little discomfort. And what does he get? Temporary approval, shallow gratitude, a thank you followed by less respect. Because deep down, she doesn't want a man who follows. She wants a man who leads, a man who says, "This is who I am, this is what I want, this is what I don't tolerate." Not from ego, but from clarity. And that kind of man doesn't need to shout. He doesn't need to argue. He asserts calmly, boldly, unapologetically. And when challenged, he doesn't flinch. He reinforces. That assertiveness becomes a signal. It says, "I know myself. I trust myself. I won't betray myself." And she may resist it at first, but she will be drawn to it. Because while she might complain about a man who leads, she will never stay with one who doesn't. So stop asking for permission to live. Stop waiting for signs to speak your truth. Stand up, be heard, make decisions, draw lines. And if someone doesn't like it, let them walk. Because the man who asserts over pleases doesn't lose people. He reveals who never deserved to stay. Number 13. Never chase women. The moment you chase, you lose. Not because she doesn't like being wanted, but because desperation repels the very respect you're trying to earn. A man who chases has placed her above his own value. He texts too soon, calls too often, rearranges his life for someone who hasn't earned that space. And with every step he takes toward her uninvited, he steps away from his own strength. But the man who does not chase, the man who moves with purpose, who builds, who grows, who leads, he becomes something rare. He becomes the one she watches, the one she waits to hear from, the one whose time feels like a gift. Because he is not reaching, he is rising. He is not persuading, he is becoming. And in that becoming, he no longer asks to be chosen. He chooses. He doesn't rush to prove. He lets her come to him. And if she doesn't, he keeps moving, not in bitterness, in freedom, because he knows his worth, and worth is never desperate. So don't chase, don't convince, don't sacrifice your peace just to gain her attention. Create a life so full, so rich, so aligned with who you are, that she has no choice but to respect you. And if she doesn't, let her watch from a distance as you live in a world she never had the strength to enter. If you've made it this far, then you already know. What you've been taught about love, dating, and being a man was never built to serve you. You were told to be soft, to give endlessly, to sacrifice your backbone for affection. And where did it lead you? Heartbreak, regret, years wasted chasing women who never saw your worth because you forgot to see it first. That ends today. The men who win aren't the ones who chase. They're the ones who build. They lead. They walk away. They live by principle, not by emotion. And now, for the first time, you have access to the one tool that brings it all together. The Stoic relationship blueprint for men. It's not a book, it's a weapon. A complete reset for any man tired of being overlooked, used, and forgotten. You want her to respect you, to crave you, to never see another man the same again. This ebook holds the truth no one else had the guts to give you, and it's linked in the comments. But it won't be available forever. We're capping the number of sales to just a few. Some knowledge must be protected. Some power must be earned. So if you're ready to claim it, comment the Stoic Blueprint below. Grab your copy now, like this video, and subscribe to help more men find this truth and escape the trap.